Guys message me all the time, new guys mostly, they say, hey man, I keep getting these bites from good fish, I can tell a lot of them are big, but I just can't get a hook set, What am I doing wrong? I type out 3 letters, G-A-R. I hit the send button. A lot of times they'll message me back, well, how do I keep them from hitting my bait? I type out 5 letters, M-O-V-E. You ain't gonna escape those pesky old gar, man. I can get into them year round. I can get into them in the dead of winter. When they're around, they're relentless. Big time cat guys use cut bait, other fish. They know good and well if there's a gar in the neighborhood, he's gonna let you know it. But summertime is the worst. It's just the absolute worst for gar. Today's story is about frustration, defeat, but in the end, victory and the ultimate revenge. As y'all know, I'm not a summer guy. I hate summer. I don't do real good in the summer. Well, after 4 or 5 small fish videos, and it was hard to get those fish, I decided I needed to travel. I decided I needed to hit the distance, go downstream somewhere to where there was more fish per acre. I done that last year. I went down to Watts Bar. I was having the same trouble here. I went to Watts Bar Dam, sat there pretty much all night without a bite. Then all of a sudden around 1 a.m. I landed between a 45 and 50 pound blue cat. Well, that was my big fish for the summer. I was happy. One trip to Watts Bar Dam, I had me a big fish. I thought I would do that again this year. I set out 2 o'clock in the afternoon or so, headed down that way. Now I knew it wasn't the best time to go to Watts Bar Dam. For one, it was a full moon. Number 2, I knew usually at this place I set up, I don't do much luck in the day. It's after dark and usually a couple hours after dark. Well, at 9 p.m. they were going to be shutting down several gates and the water level was going to fall several feet. Now cat fishermen like flow when fishing these dams and stuff like that. I do too. And water drop is never good. Kind of makes the fish act funny, But that's what happened. Probably wasn't the best night to go. Either way, I went. It was a lot of work climbing all my stuff down them rocks. Several trips, rods, tackle, ice, bait, all my camera stuff, lights, batteries. It was quite a bit of work. I was covered in sweat and I was really hoping for some reward for the work I was putting in. I was in a good mood. I was optimistic, I knew it wasn't the best day, but I was in a good spot. So I start the video out just like I always do, thinking in the back of my mind, if I can just sit this out for a long enough time, I'm gonna get, if not one big fish, several decent fish at this spot. I got settled in. That dag-blasted blue heron just ran into my line. I hope he didn't snatch it hard enough to pull that skipjack off there. Ate me some snacks. I'm gonna eat some barbecue Vienna sausage and some Bush's baked beans for good luck. Waited for night to fall. The bugs were bad, mosquitoes just like they always were down there. But I was willing to sit it out, no bug spray, because I'm too lazy to stop and buy some. And I was determined I was going to get a big catfish that night. Well, so far, there goes that dag blasted blue heron again. So far, eating a can of barbecue Vienna sausages ain't doing me no good. Mosquitoes are chewing me up. I expected that as from last time. They are thick out here. It's still early. This place is different from time to time. Most of the fish I've got here at this spot have been after dark. I ain't gonna stay all night, especially under a full moon. But I'm gonna give it a little while because this was a pretty good drive down here. And I need a fish on video. You can't get them at Watts Bar Dam in the summer, you just ain't gonna get them nowhere. Well, sure enough, I get the first bite. Oh man, shoot. Had to be some old gar or something. I knew that was probably a gar that hit my bait, and I wasn't too worried about it because I just knew there had to be some catfish out there. More time went by, and finally that rod went down, and I had a hookup. Bunch of dang gar. Now usually, the biggest complaint with gar is they hit your bait, and using them big 10-aught circle hooks, you're never going to hook one of them because that circle hook just won't get caught in that hard bony mouth. But this fish, just like all the other gar, he wasn't hooked. The difference in this gar and all the other gar that's hit my bait was this fish was just too stupid to let go. It's pretty rare for me to hook a gar on these big circle hooks. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even hooked. He was just hanging on. He just let go. Old long-nosed gar, man. Thought I was going to keep that old gar just to get the pesky old things out of the river. They plagued me so much through the years. They plague everybody, anybody that catfishes. Everybody's taking crappie, bluegills, bass. People takes all kinds of fish out of the river. Hardly anybody catches a gar. They're just hard to catch. A few bow hunters get them once in a while. But gar are pretty much untouched and just not fished for that heavily. Anyway, that gar escaped on me. Good Lord. Well, I believe that old gar is going to get away. There he goes. He worked his way back into the water. Oh well, no biggie. I was willing to have him ride around in the back of my truck, if nothing else, just to wither up and die. The night went on, I stood my ground. I was determined I was going to get a catfish. But the same thing just kept going down. Oh, he come off, man. Dang, plastic. Finally, frustration started setting in. A couple hours had went by, and a catfish just wasn't in sight. One gar bites. I was on the phone with the girlfriend, and I was in a pretty bad mood. Bad enough, I really have to turn the volume down during that part of the video. And it was during that time I had another one of those pesky old gar mess with my bait. There's another big old gar. He wasn't hooked. He was just too stupid to let go. I knew that's what that was on that other rod. Doing all that splashing and carrying on. Big old gar. Yep. It was a big old gar this time. I decided this one wasn't going to get away. So I start to carry him up to the truck, and I get halfway up the hill with these rocks, and I've got a 5-gallon bucket full of all kind of stuff. And that gar flipped out of my arms, hit that bucket, and knocked everything in that 5-gallon bucket out in those rocks, in the dark, and caused a big old mess. He won't get away. Had a 5-gallon bucket full of electronics, camera stuff, hooks, all kind of goodies. That old gar knocked it down the rocks. Anyway, I had that gar safely in the back of the truck. I went back down for more punishment. I believe I had an old gar playing with it. Ended up getting it hung up. Broke my line, so I'm gonna go up here and try and tie on a new rig in the dark. Finally, that big old full moon was visible, and even the gar bite had finally stopped. I decided I'd had enough of Watts Bar Dam. So I packed up and I left. Headed down the highway, no catfish on video. Frustrated by them pesky old gar, I had an idea pop in my head. It's awful late, I'm awful tired, I don't have to go to bed. I can go back home to Fort Loudon and I can get the ultimate revenge. I pulled up into a Denny's, got me some breakfast, got me some coffee, and I headed out to this point where I had plenty of room to lay that gar down and do what I was going to do. Once I had extracted the meat from that gar, I decided the best revenge I could get was still to get a catfish on this video and get it using that gar for bait. So that's what I done. I headed over to Carl Cowan Park. About 2 hours later, after that full moon had finally went down, it was still up that morning when I got there. The sun had come up. I was so tired I couldn't hold my head up no more, and I finally got my ultimate revenge. He's not very big, but either way, I caught a blue cat on a piece of long-nosed gar. For years I had fantasized about some way to get back at them pesky old gar. And on that day, I got my wish. Not only did I get my wish, but I got me a catfish. This is a video. There was a fish in the video. This is Catfish Dave with another one. Signing out.